always been the type of person who values trust more than anything in a relationship. When I first met Donna, I thought I had found someone I could truly share that with. Our romance was fast-paced, full of passion, excitement, and intensity. She seemed ideal with her sharp wit and ability to make me laugh, even when I was stressed out from work. For years, I believed we had something unique, something unbreakable. But over time, small issues began to appear, things I dismissed as normal bumps in a long-term relationship. As the years passed, those small issues grew. I started noticing she was more secretive, often dodging my questions with vague responses. Her business trips seemed to stretch longer, and her absences became harder to ignore. I convinced myself I was just being paranoid, maybe overthinking it because of the distance. But there were brief, subtle moments when I felt something was seriously wrong. Then came the night in Oklahoma City, the night where everything began to fall apart. I was sitting at a bar with my friend Toby, celebrating a successful deal for our companies. We had just wrapped up negotiations, and we were both in high spirits. As I lifted my glass for a sip, a commotion from the other side of the room grabbed our attention. Toby turned to me, curious, and asked, "What's going on over there?" "No clue," I replied. When we looked over, we saw a young blonde woman sitting in a booth, surrounded by several large men. She was clearly tipsy, laughing loudly at something one of them said. We both noticed her outfit, a short skirt and a loose, sleeveless top. If it weren't for her long blonde hair and the rose tattoo on her shoulder, she could have easily been mistaken for my wife, Donna. But I knew it couldn't be Donna because she was away on one of her twice-monthly business trips. Her trips typically lasted between 3 and 5 days, and this time, she was in Houston for 4 days, working with the management of a factory there. Her company sells security equipment to various factories around the country, so she's often on the road. That's why I planned to meet Toby in Oklahoma City. I figured it was a good time to catch up while Donna was away, and it wouldn't interfere with my family life. As we watched, the blonde woman stood up and her whole group left the bar, walking right past us. She was holding hands with 2 men, one black, the other Hispanic. As they passed by, she looked directly at me, and I noticed her dark blue eyes. The group laughed as they headed for the door. "Are you okay, Bob?" Toby asked after the group had left. "By the way, I'm Bob Carson, head of product development at Riker Industries in Denver, Colorado. My task was to finalize a deal with Toby's company to produce a new line of air conditioning controls for energy-efficient smart homes. With all the focus on environmental concerns and sustainability, it would be a win-win for both our companies. Today's celebration was the result of those efforts." "Yeah," I said, "it's just..." That woman reminded me a lot of my wife, Donna. "Isn't she in Houston?" Toby asked. "Yes," I replied, "but something about that blonde really bothered me. I can't explain why." Just then, the waitress came over to our table. We ordered 2 more beers, but before she walked away, I stopped her. "Hey, what can you tell me about that blonde?" "Oh, her," she responded. "I've seen her here a bunch of times. There's always a group of men following her around." "You don't want to meet her, do you?" "No, just curious," I said. We finished our beers and called it a night. I promised to keep in touch with Toby and then headed to my room. Once there, I tried calling Donna, but the call went straight to voicemail. This struck me as odd since she always kept her phone close. I tried calling her hotel in Houston, only to be told she had checked out earlier that morning. It wasn't out of the ordinary for Donna to handle 2 clients in one trip, but she always informed me when her plans changed. I texted her, "How are you doing?" "Everything's fine," she responded quickly. "I'm just tired." "Long day?" I asked. "Getting ready for bed." "Where are you?" "At the hotel," she answered. "Where else?" "Really? Where else?" I thought to myself. What the hell is going on? Donna wasn't the type to lie to me, or was she? "I'll be home Friday evening as planned. See you then. Love you," she added in a follow-up message. Reading between the lines, I recognized this as her way of saying, "Don't bother me." "I love you even more," I wrote back. The next day, I returned home feeling confused. If Donna wasn't at her hotel, then where had she been? Was she even in Houston, or had she gone somewhere else? I decided I'd talk to her about it when she got home. Friday came quickly, and Donna arrived just as she said she would. In fact, she got home before me, and her car was already in the garage. As I climbed the stairs, I heard the water running in the shower. I undressed and decided to join her. When I opened the shower door, she screamed. I moved closer, trying to hug her, but she pulled away. "What's wrong?" I asked. "I haven't seen you in days, and you're acting like I'm a stranger." "You scared me half to pass away," she said. Please just let me finish my shower and I'll be out in a few minutes, okay? I understood she wasn't in the mood to see me just then, so I shrugged and left. It's fine, I said. I just missed you and wanted to show you some affection. I left the bathroom, got dressed, and went downstairs to grab a beer and watch the news. About half an hour later, she came down wearing shorts and a t-shirt. I'm sorry I yelled, she said. I missed you too. It was a rough trip. I tried calling you on Wednesday, I said. Where were you? I was in my hotel room, she replied. Really? Then why did the hotel tell me you checked out early that morning? Sorry, I forgot to mention it. There was a leak in the bathroom and the floor was soaked. They didn't have another room for me, so I moved to a different hotel. I should have told you. I was worried, I said. I had good news to share with you too. Oh? What's that? She asked. Remember the company in Oklahoma City we were working with? I went there while you were in Houston, met with the financial director, and closed the deal. We stand to make a lot of money from it, and if all goes well, I'll get a big commission. We can even start thinking about kids. Wait, you were in Oklahoma City 2 days ago? She asked, sounding uneasy. Yes, I was. Why do you ask? You didn't mention you were going there. It was a last-minute decision, I explained. Toby was free, so I flew out, met with him, stayed the night, and came home. I thought you were in Houston, so I didn't think you'd miss me. I tried to call you, but I couldn't get through. Then I called your hotel, and they said you had checked out early. I'm sorry, she said. I should have told you, but I didn't want to bother you. It wouldn't have been a problem, I replied. I have some news too, she said. My territory is expanding. I'm replacing one of the other reps who's leaving, so I'll be traveling even more. Maybe 4 or 5 days a week. 4 or 5 days a week? Every week? I asked, shocked. I already hardly see you. How long will this last? I'm not sure. Probably until they find a replacement. It could be within the next 3 months. Great, I muttered. When does this start? Monday. I'm flying to Miami Monday morning. When did you find out about this? Last night, when I checked in with the office. Unbelievable, I muttered. We had dinner, watched some TV, and then went to bed, where we made love before falling asleep. I wanted to make the most of my time with her before she left for Miami, so we went dancing on Saturday night, which led to another night of wild sex. On Sunday, we slept in and spent most of the morning in bed. She finally got up around 1 p.m. to start getting ready, and I got up with her to do my usual weekend yard work. That evening, we ordered pizza and ended the day by making love again. She kissed me as she left for the airport on Monday morning. Keep this nice and warm for me, she said, running her hand down the front of my pants. Count on it, I replied, giving her a casual kiss before heading to work. She called me every evening to let me know she was fine. When she came back, we spent the weekend making passionate love. This routine continued for about 4 weeks, and then it happened. It was Monday morning, and I had just finished my first cup of coffee at the office. Donna had left for New York on Sunday, telling me she would arrive early Monday morning. She mentioned the trip could last at least 5 days, maybe longer. I wasn't thrilled about it, but she reassured me that everything was fine and that we would benefit if things went well. After my second cup of coffee, I headed back to my office, but suddenly felt an intense urge to use the restroom. That's when the pain hit me. It was unlike anything I had ever felt, like my insides were on fire. I recalled hearing stories from guys in the service about similar symptoms, and it hit me. Donna must have given me something. I told my secretary I needed to see a doctor and rushed out of the office. Doc Brown had been my doctor since I got out of the Army, and I trusted him to figure out what was going on quickly. After taking samples and running tests, he came back with the news. I'm sorry, Bob, but you have gonorrhea, he said. He gave me an antibiotic shot and a pill, then started asking questions about my sex life, how many partners I had and such. I've only had sex with one person in the last 7 years, I told him. My wife, Donna. We've been married for 6 years, but I was exclusive with her for a year before we tied the knot. He gave me a sympathetic look. I understand, he said, but she'll need to see a doctor as soon as possible. He handed me a sheet of instructions, including no sex for 2 weeks. No problem there. There was no way I was going to touch Donna again. After explaining everything, he sent me on my way. I paid for the visit and headed to my car. Once in my car, I called my boss and gave him a brief rundown of the situation. He had gone through a divorce himself, so he understood and gave me a few days off to get things under control. I needed to find out what my wife had been up to and with whom. So I did some research, found a private investigator, and called Hammer Investigations. How can I help you? asked a friendly female voice. I introduced myself and asked for a meeting. The receptionist said I could come in right away to meet with the investigator, so I headed over. Upon arrival, I introduced myself to the receptionist. "Mr. Hammer will see you shortly," she said with a bright smile. I couldn't help but notice her legs and the way her long hair flowed with each step as she led me to the office. When we entered, a large, barrel-chested man stood up and shook my hand. "James Hammer," he said. "Please, have a seat. Would you like something to drink? Coffee? Tea?" "No, I'm good. Thanks," I replied. After the secretary left, James turned to me. "So, what can I do for you today, Mr. Carson?" he asked. He listened and took notes as I explained the situation. "Have you spoken to a lawyer yet?" he asked. "No, not yet," I responded. He nodded. "We work with several lawyers in the area," he said. "I can recommend one if you'd like." "That would be helpful, thank you," I said. "You mentioned your wife is in New York?" he asked. I nodded. "Is she planning to go anywhere else this week?" he continued. "I'm not sure," I said. "She didn't mention any other plans." "I could call her office and check," he suggested. "Why don't you?" I said, taking out my phone. I dialed her office's number. After a few rings, I reached her secretary, Janice Billings. I asked to speak to my wife's assistant, Patricia Holder. A few seconds later, Patricia came on the line. "Hi, Pat. This is Bob Carson. I was hoping you could help me with my wife's itinerary. She usually gives me a copy, but I seem to have misplaced it." "I'm sorry, Mr. Carson, but Mrs. Carson doesn't work here anymore," she said. "Didn't she tell you?" "Tell me what?" I asked, baffled. "She quit about a month ago," Patricia replied. "I'm surprised she didn't mention it." "She didn't say a word about leaving," I said. "Did she tell you why she quit?" "Something about a better opportunity. Making more money doing what she loves," Patricia explained. "Did she mention the name of her new company?" I asked. "No, she didn't," Patricia said. "I'm sorry, but I don't have any more information." "That's all right, Patricia. Thanks anyway," I said, and we ended the call. I relayed the conversation to James. "Interesting," he murmured. Then it hit me. I had installed a phone tracking app on Donna's phone a few months back after she lost it on a previous trip. The hotel staff had returned it before she flew home, and I'd put the app on her phone in case it happened again. I opened the app and waited for it to update with her phone's location. According to the app, her phone was at the Courtyard New York Manhattan Hotel, but she had told me she was staying at the Times Square Hotel in Manhattan. Why was she at a different hotel? I showed James the location report, and he made a note of it. Then I remembered the night with Toby. "What if she's disguising herself?" I asked. "Can your team still track her?" "We have ways to handle that," he said. "Do you think your wife could change her appearance?" I told him about the woman I had seen that night with Toby. He thought for a moment before responding. "This seems like more than just a typical cheating case. Your wife is clearly hiding something significant, Mr. Carson," he said, "and she's going to great lengths to keep it from you. I have colleagues in New York and other cities who occasionally assist me. I can bring them in, but it will cost extra." "I need to know what she's doing," I said. "Bring them in." I sent James some photos of Donna. He acknowledged receiving them and then handed me paperwork to fill out. "I'll get on this right away," he said. "I'll have my team watch her in New York. It may take a few days, but we'll figure it out. I'll call you once I have a report ready." He gave me a business card for Robin Hawkins, a lawyer. "She's the best lawyer around," James said. "When people see her coming, they cross the street. If you catch my drift." "I'll call her," I said, slipping the card into my pocket. With that, we wrapped up our meeting, shook hands, and I took the paperwork to the receptionist, leaving a hefty deposit. As I walked out of the office, I pulled out Robin's card and called her. She wasn't available, but I booked an appointment for 8 a.m. on Wednesday. Perfect. Afterward, I headed home. I considered calling or texting Donna, but decided against it. She usually called me after finishing work each day, so I figured I'd keep pretending I didn't know anything. However, I decided to go through her papers, which she kept locked in her desk drawer. I had a key, just as she had one to my desk. At one time, I wouldn't have invaded her privacy, but that was before she lied and broke my trust. I unlocked the drawer and found a thick folder of bank statements. They were from a bank we didn't use. Then I remembered she had a separate account when we got married. I thought she'd closed it when we opened a joint account, but apparently she hadn't. The most recent statement, dated just over 3 weeks ago, showed a balance of more than $500,000. "What the hell is this?" I muttered to myself. As I looked over the statements, I noticed some large deposits from a company called Stanton Enterprises. I had never heard of them before, so I made a note to investigate further. There were also withdrawals for expensive clothes, jewelry, wigs, hotel stays, and plane tickets. One of the tickets was a round trip from Houston to Oklahoma City, purchased just days before my meeting with Toby. Could the woman I saw at the bar have been Donna in disguise? Digging deeper, I discovered payments made to Planned Parenthood clinics. The first one dated about a year after we got married, the second a year and a half later, and the third a couple of years after that. I needed more answers, so I kept searching. I found a folder filled with receipts and statements from various doctors and clinics. The first document was from the doctor she had visited just before leaving on her current trip. It showed that she had been examined and treated for gonorrhea. On top of that, I found 3 receipts from different clinics for D&C procedures. I didn't need to dig deeper. I knew what they were for. Since we got married, Donna had undergone at least 3 feticides and never told me. She hadn't even mentioned being pregnant. It felt like a punch to the gut. But that wasn't all. I found a folder full of tax forms. About 3 years ago, Donna insisted we file separate tax returns, claiming her bonuses and commissions could push us into a higher tax bracket. We talked about it for a while, and I eventually gave in. Now, I realized why she really wanted separate forms. Her tax declaration showed she was making far more money than she had let on. There were also transfers from Stanton Enterprises, and the most recent one was for a large sum. But what was she getting paid for? The contents of another folder provided the answer. Inside, I found signed consent forms and a contract between Donna and Stanton Enterprises. I didn't fully understand the legal terms, but I could grasp the main point. Donna had agreed to appear in at least 5 full-length adult films every year for 5 years. The document was signed, notarized, and dated just over 3 years ago. Next to Donna's signature was the signature of Harold Stanton, President and CEO of Stanton Enterprises. I took the folders to the copier and made copies of everything, placing them in another folder I planned to take to the lawyer. I also scanned the most incriminating documents into a PDF and saved it on a flash drive. My plan was to email the files to James. After that, I returned everything to her drawer, closed it, and locked it. I felt like I had gathered more than enough evidence, but I needed context for everything. Had she been cheating on me throughout our entire marriage? And where was all this extra money coming from? Without access to her email or text messages, I was at a disadvantage. I sent the files to James via email and gave him a call to confirm. "Thanks, Bob," he said. "I'll add it to the investigation and see what I can uncover." Afterward, I headed upstairs to our master bedroom. We each had our own dressing room, and I usually stayed out of hers to respect her privacy. This time, though, I went into her closet and started searching. I found several bags filled with skimpy dresses and outfits that seemed more appropriate for nightclubs than anything else. There were also a couple of wigs, one of which looked similar to the one I saw on the woman in Oklahoma City. She had a small plastic drawer unit stacked up, so I rifled through the drawers. Inside, I found several small boxes. Opening them, I discovered contact lenses. Donna had never worn glasses or contacts, but these weren't prescription lenses. They were cosmetic, designed to change the color of her eyes. I also found a pamphlet that appeared to show temporary tattoos. One of them resembled the rose tattoo I had seen on the woman in Oklahoma. Damn, I thought. How far would Donna go to deceive me? Who is this person I'm married to? Continuing my search, I found a box in one corner that contained various Zex toys. I had once mentioned to Donna that I would like to watch her use toys like these, but she had brushed me off, calling it perverted. At the bottom of the box, I found a DVD in a plastic case. The title, written in black marker, read, "D.D. and the Boys, Volume 1, Raw Footage." "What the hell?" I muttered, shocked. I went downstairs, put the DVD into the player, and turned on the TV. The video started with what appeared to be a narrow upholstered bench in a dimly lit room. A date stamp in the lower right corner indicated the footage was from about 3 years ago. Interesting, I thought as the bench was suddenly lit up. Donna walked toward it wearing a short sundress and a long red wig, clearly trying to disguise herself. In the background, I heard a rough male voice. "You're on time," the voice said. "Good. Now take off your clothes." "Yes, sir," Donna responded quietly, nodding. She unbuttoned the dress, slipped the straps off her shoulders, and let it fall to the floor. She was completely undressed underneath. A large man, wearing only a towel, approached her and inspected her like she was an object. "I see you're married," he said, lifting her left hand. The camera zoomed in, focusing on the rings I'd placed on her fingers when we got married. "Yes, sir, I am married," Donna replied. "Does your husband know what you're doing?" he asked. "He knows," she said. "And is he okay with this?" the man pressed. Donna nodded. "Yes, sir, he's fine with it. He knows he can never satisfy me, so he told me I could find someone else to meet my sexual needs." "What?" I screamed at the TV. "I never said anything like that." Then it hit me. This was probably part of the script she was following. The video continued with explicit scenes involving Donna and several men, none of whom used protection. It was no wonder she had contracted gonorrhea. God knows what else she might have picked up. Saying I was shocked would be an understatement. I was devastated. I cried, screamed, and yelled. How could she do this to me, to us? In that moment, I realized all the love I had for her was gone, replaced by seething hatred. I wanted her out of my life. I wanted her gone forever. I needed to get out of the house, so I cleaned up and headed to Hitchhikers, a bar and grill I liked to frequent. Sometimes I'd order a beer and a burger and sit there, reflecting on what had gone wrong in my marriage. I kept going over everything, trying to understand what I could have done to make Donna act the way she did. I'd always treated her with kindness and respect. From the beginning, I showered her with love, often buying her flowers or cards just to remind her I loved her. I thought we had a fulfilling sex life. I was satisfied, and she always seemed content too. I never even considered cheating on her. Hurting her in that way was something I'd never do. So why is she doing this? I asked myself. I finished my burger and checked the time. It was 4 p.m. An idea struck me, and I called Robin Hawkins's office. After everything I'd uncovered, I knew I wouldn't have peace until I started the divorce process. I listened to the secretary's greeting and then made my request. "Well, let me check, Mr. Carson," she said after a brief pause. "It seems we've had a cancellation, and Miss Hawkins is available tomorrow at 8 a.m. Does that work for you?" "Absolutely," I replied. "Great. I'll reschedule your appointment now, and she'll see you first thing in the morning." "Thank you," I said, feeling a bit of relief. Shortly after the call, my phone rang. It was Donna. I thought about ignoring it, but decided to answer. "Yes," I said, my tone abrupt. Bob, it's me, Donna," she said, sounding taken aback. "Are you okay?" "Not really, Donna," I replied. "I've had a really bad day. How about you? Isn't it a bit early for you?" "Well, it's not too early," she said. "You know I'm in New York. I just wanted to check in and let you know I'll be out to dinner and then busy with clients this evening." "Thanks for the update," I said. "How's everything going on your end?" "Pretty well, actually," she said. "The deal we're working on should be a big boost to the company's bottom line." "That's good to hear," I told her. "Bob, are you sure you're okay?" she asked, her voice filled with concern. "You don't sound like yourself." "I'm just not feeling great right now," I said. It wasn't a complete lie. Thinking about her made my stomach turn. "I'm sorry. Is there anything I can do?" she asked. "No, there's nothing you can do," I replied. "I'll probably go to bed early. If I still feel bad tomorrow, I'll go see someone." "Well, take care of yourself," she said. "I want you in perfect health when I get back. You know I miss you." "Yes," I said. "I love you," she added, signaling the end of the conversation. "Me too," I replied before ending the call. I wondered if she noticed I hadn't said "I love you" back, but I realized I didn't care anymore whether she loved me or not. I finished my burger and headed home, where I lay on the couch and watched TV until I drifted off to sleep. The next morning, I woke up early, made some coffee, showered, got dressed, and gathered everything I needed for my meeting with Robin. I arrived a few minutes before 8 and was promptly ushered into her office. Robin stood up to greet me, shaking my hand. She looked about my age, with long, wavy dark hair. "Good morning, Mr. Carson," she said. "What can we do for you today?" I explained everything I knew and placed a large folder on her desk containing all the evidence I had gathered. Robin flipped through the documents, her eyes widening as she reviewed the contents. After she finished, she set the folder down and looked at me. "I assume you've already spoken to Mr. Hammer?" she asked. "Yes," I replied. "I've shared some of this information with him as well. He mentioned he has colleagues in New York who are keeping an eye on her." "Okay," she said. "What are you hoping to get out of this?" "I want her out of my life completely," I said. "I want to keep the house, my pension, my income, everything. From what I understand, she can have her $500,000 account, pension, and personal property. But I'm not willing to give her a dime in support." Based on the financials, it looks like she's earned significantly more than you, Robin said. I don't foresee any issues with support. The court might require you to sell the house and give her half of the proceeds, along with a portion of your joint assets. However, I'll work to minimize that. Luckily, in this state, you can file on grounds of infidelity, and once proven, judges here often take that into account when dividing property. I'll coordinate with James, see what else he has, and we'll proceed when she returns on Sunday afternoon. I've already told her, I said. Perfect. That gives me enough time to put everything together and file the suit, she replied. She handed me her business card, with her personal cell number written on the back. She also gave me a sheet with instructions. If anything comes up, don't hesitate to reach out, and don't do anything rash. I'll call you as soon as the documents are ready to file. Thank you, I said. She smiled, stood up, and we shook hands, signaling the end of the meeting. On my way out, I stopped at the secretary's desk to leave the advance payment. The next 2 days were uneventful. My routine was simple. Get up, go to work, come home, eat, and go to bed. My boss had offered me time off, but I was too restless to sit at home doing nothing. Robin called on Thursday afternoon and asked if I could meet her and James at her office the next morning. I agreed and let my boss know, who gave me Friday off. That evening, Donna called me. I just wanted to let you know that everything's going as planned, and I'll be home Sunday afternoon, she said. That's good to hear, I replied. What time do you think you'll be home? I'll grab a taxi from the airport, so I should be home around 1, she told me. Then we can celebrate. Do you like the sound of that? She teased. Yes, of course, I said. Okay, honey, she continued. See you then. Hope you've been taking your vitamins. I plan to wear you out. I chuckled. Sounds tempting, I said. See you then. We ended the call, and I leaned back in my chair with a smirk. Oh yeah, someone's about to get screwed, I thought to myself. The next day, I arrived at Robin's office a few minutes before our scheduled meeting and was promptly shown into a conference room. I shook hands with James and Robin, and she introduced me to 2 large men in dark suits. Bob, this is Agent Smith, and this is Special Agent Jones, Robin said. They both work for the FBI. FBI? I asked, surprised. Why is the FBI involved? We'll get to that, Robin said. Let's sit down and talk. We all took our seats, and Robin pulled out the divorce papers. They were filed in court yesterday afternoon. I prepared them as you requested. You said your wife would be home tomorrow at 1 o'clock in the afternoon, right? Yes, that's correct, I confirmed. Good, she said, handing the papers to James. James will serve her with these. He's also a notary, so he can witness her signature, assuming she signs. I think she will once she realizes the situation she's in. James opened his briefcase, put the papers inside, and pulled out a thick folder along with a stack of DVDs, placing them on the table. What does all this mean? I asked, eyeing the pile. This is my final report, James said, handing me a photograph of a scruffy man with slicked back hair. Who is this? I asked. He looks like a real creep. James chuckled. That's Harold Stanton. And you're right, he makes creeps look harmless. He runs a national chain of strip clubs based in Richmond, Virginia. He's also deeply involved in the adult film industry. Quite the character. What does this have to do with my wife? I asked, growing impatient. Your wife has been working with him for years, James explained. She's been a part of his club, which revolves around group sex and adult entertainment. She's been featured in several of his films, and she's also been recruiting others. I sat in silence as the weight of James's words sank in. How did she manage to pull this off during her work trips? I eventually asked. She was cutting her trips short by a couple of days, James explained. She'd participate in Stanton's events, then take a day or two to clean up and come home like nothing happened. From what we've gathered, she figured that with a little time to recover, you wouldn't notice anything different. That lying witch, I muttered, mostly to myself. She went to great lengths to keep you in the dark, James continued. Disguises, wigs, colored contacts, the whole package. She knew you respected her privacy enough not to dig through her things, which allowed her to hide everything for years. I thought back to the wigs and contact lenses I had found in her closet and desk drawer. But James wasn't finished. About 3 years ago, Stanton decided to make more money from these events by filming them. Your wife agreed to be part of it and signed a contract to appear in 5 films a year. She's already made 15. He gestured to the stack of DVDs. These are some of the recordings. Stanton posted previews online, and they've been viewed hundreds of thousands of times. I was stunned. And that's not all, James continued. A month ago, Stanton hired your wife full-time. Besides performing, she's been recruiting and training others. She's become pretty well known in that world. I sat there, trying to take it all in. So, what does the FBI have to do with this? Special Agent Jones finally spoke. Do you remember the Zex cult case from a few years ago, the one with the local actress? Yeah, I nodded. The leader got a massive prison sentence, right? Correct. 120 years, Jones said. We believe something similar is happening with Stanton. We're investigating a larger ring, and your wife is involved. We'll need to take her into custody when she returns, and we'd appreciate your cooperation. Of course, I said, still in shock. I'll do whatever I can to help. We spent the next hour going over the plan. Smith and Jones outlined what they needed from me, and I agreed to everything. After finalizing the strategy, we shook hands and parted ways. Sunday arrived, and just after 1 p.m, Donna walked through the door, carrying her bags. She smiled at me, but the smile quickly faded when she saw everything laid out on the kitchen table in front of me. Sit down, Donna, I said calmly. We need to talk. I really need to take a shower and clean up first, she said, glancing at her suitcase. It can wait. No, Donna, I said firmly. We need to talk now. She hesitated, then slowly walked over to the table and sat down in front of the evidence I had gathered. What does all of this mean? She asked, her voice trembling. I ignored her question. Tell me, Donna. It was you I saw in Oklahoma City when you said you were in Houston, wasn't it? Her shocked expression shifted, and suddenly, the woman in front of me felt like a stranger. Yes, it was me, she said calmly. I was surprised to see you there. I half expected you to do something. It's a good thing you didn't. Those guys would have stomped you. How did you recognize me? You can change your clothes or wear wigs, but I'd recognize your face anywhere, I said. She shrugged, then looked me in the eye. Were you ever going to tell me about the 3 feticides you had? I asked. There were 4, actually, she replied coldly. The first one was a few months before we got married. Were any of those kids mine? I asked, feeling sick. Maybe, she said indifferently. Maybe not. I've slept with a lot of men, including black and Latino guys. I didn't want to risk giving you a biracial child. Besides, I didn't want the burden of a kid. It was my choice. I nodded, absorbing her words. Yes, it's your choice. And it's also my choice. My choice never to touch you again. How long has this been going on? I know it's been at least 5 years. This started before we even got engaged, she said. At first, it was every couple of months. Then it became monthly. Eventually, I did it every time I was out of town. I arranged it myself at first, but once I met Harry Stanton, things changed. Why? I asked, struggling to understand. It's simple, she said without remorse. I love Zex, a lot. I like it when several men have me at once. Don't get me wrong. You're a great husband and lover, but you make love to me. They just screw me again and again. It wasn't about you, and it never changed how I felt about you. I loved you. I still do. You're an idiot, I said, feeling rage build. Do you think none of this hurt me? You gave me gonorrhea, you stupid witch. Did you tell them you had Zex with me, or did you lie about that too? For the first time, she looked down. I'm sorry. No, I didn't include you on my list. Well, that's great. No wonder I didn't get a warning. We continued to argue, each revelation more painful than the last. Finally, I'd had enough. I looked toward the front of the house and shouted, Okay, you can come out now. At that moment, the door to my home office opened, and 5 people walked out. Donna looked up startled. James stepped forward, holding a manila envelope. Donna Carson, he said, handing her the envelope. You've been served. I handed her a pen. If I were you, I'd sign this now so we can end this farce of a marriage. I won't sign, she hissed. I'll fight you every step of the way. That might be difficult, I said, since the FBI is freezing your accounts. Donna's face turned pale. The FBI? She asked, her voice shaking. I nodded. Yes, I replied calmly. Meet Special Agent Jones and Agent Smith. They'll be taking you into custody. I understand they have a warrant for your arrest. So, sign the papers now. In 60 days, this will all be over, and you can focus on your defense. I could see the shock in her eyes as the reality of her situation hit her. Trembling, she took the pen and signed the divorce papers. James notarized her signature, applied his seal, and took the documents back. I'll deliver these to Miss Hawkins, James said. Donna's parents, who had been waiting quietly in the background, stepped forward. Her mother was the first to speak. Donna, I'm so ashamed of you, she said, her voice thick with disappointment. "How could you do this to Bob?" Donna shot a glare at her mother, her voice sharp. "I'm just following in your footsteps, Mom," she spat. "You're the one who always told me to grab everything I could." Her father and I exchanged shocked looks directed at her mother. Denise, Donna's mother, muttered something under her breath, clearly flustered, but failed to articulate anything coherent. Her father turned to his wife. "We'll discuss this when we get home, Denise," he said, his voice heavy with anger. Then he looked at me with an apologetic expression. "Bob, I'm sorry about all this. I had no idea. If you need anything, please let me know. We'll handle all of Donna's belongings. She can come by to pick them up when she's ready." I nodded and shook his hand. "Thank you, Ralph," I said. I watched them leave, and as the door closed behind them, Agent Jones stepped forward. "Donna Carson," he said formally, "you are under arrest for conspiracy, racketeering, and sex trafficking. Please stand up, turn around, and place your hands behind your back." Donna's face twisted in shock and disbelief, but she complied. Jones cuffed her hands behind her back and began reading her rights as Special Agent Smith stood by, observing. Donna looked at me with a mix of hatred and desperation as they escorted her out of the house. Once they were gone, James turned to me with a wry smile. "Everything went smoothly," he said. "Yes, it did," I replied quietly. He nodded and extended his hand. "Take care of yourself, Bob." I shook his hand. "I will, James." He left, and for the first time in months, I felt the weight of Donna's deception lift a little off my shoulders. 6 months later, the divorce was finalized without any issues. Thanks largely to Robin's efforts and the criminal charges against Donna, everything went in my favor. Federal authorities arrested several individuals involved in Stanton's operation, including Stanton himself. In the following months, investigations continued and trials began. Donna, considered a flight risk, was denied bail and remained in custody. She had sufficient funds for her defense, but by the end of the trial, most of her savings were depleted. She had spent over 3/4 of her money on legal fees. The last time I saw her was shortly after the divorce was finalized. I visited her at the county jail where she was being held. Shackled and seated at a table across from me, her wrists and ankles were bound. She appeared to have lost some weight, and dark bags under her eyes were evident. "You look terrible, Donna," I said without a hint of sympathy. "Yeah, well, orange isn't exactly my color," she shot back, maintaining her usual arrogance. "What do you want?" I stared at her for a moment, disgusted by her defiance. "I was wondering if you received the final divorce papers yet." "I got them today," she replied, her tone flat. "I had the chance to watch some of your videos," I said, gauging her reaction. A smug grin spread across her face. "Did you enjoy them?" "No, actually, I found them repulsive," I said coldly. She shrugged, seemingly unfazed. "Doesn't matter." I leaned in slightly and lowered my voice. "I was curious about something. I noticed that all the videos start the same way. A small, pathetic guy gets knocking and undressed and tied to a chair with a cage on his Johnson. Was that your idea?" Donna smiled, her eyes lighting up with satisfaction. "Yes, that was my idea." I narrowed my eyes. "Was that supposed to represent me? Is that what you wanted to do to me?" Without hesitation, she replied, "Yes, I've thought about doing that to you for a long time. It's been a fantasy of mine, and I really enjoyed it." "You really are a sick witch," I said, shaking my head. "Did you honestly think I'd just sit there and let you do something like that to me?" She raised an eyebrow. "I don't know. Maybe." "Well, it's a good thing you never tried," I said, my voice steady. "I've never touched a woman in my life, but I think if you had attempted something like that, I would have been tempted to liquidate you." Donna's smug expression wavered for a moment, and I could see a flicker of fear in her eyes. I didn't wait for her to reply. "I've heard stories about what you and Stanton did to some of those girls. How can you live with yourself?" Donna scoffed, rolling her eyes. "What do you want me to say? Should I cry, apologize, beg for forgiveness?" I shook my head. "No, I wouldn't expect that from you. A person might do that, or at least someone with a conscience. But neither of those terms applies to you, does it?" For the first time, I noticed a hint of sadness in her eyes, but I didn't care. I wasn't finished. "It's probably for the best that you never had children," I said coldly. "You were a terrible wife, and you'd make a terrible mother." I could see the sting of my words affecting her, but I pressed on. "Why don't you do humanity a favor and just eliminate yourself?" I asked bluntly. Her eyes widened in shock, and for a moment she appeared genuinely hurt. but I didn't care. I wanted to inflict pain with my words. I wanted her to feel the suffering she had caused me. "There are enough problems in the world already, and we certainly don't need you wasting precious air," I said, rising from the table. As I stood to leave, Donna's voice trembled behind me. "Oh my God," she whispered. "I turned you into a monster, didn't I? You really hate me, don't you?" I turned to give her one last look. "Did you figure that out on your own?" "Yes, I hate you, Donna. I hate you with every fiber of my being. Thanks to you, I don't think I'll ever love or trust another woman again. I hope it was worth it." Without waiting for her to respond, I walked out of the room. As I left, I thought I heard her sob, but I didn't stop or look back. I didn't care anymore. Shortly after that final meeting, Donna testified against Stanton and his associates, giving federal authorities all the information they needed. In exchange for her cooperation, she pleaded guilty to lesser charges and was sentenced to 5 years in prison. James informed me that she would likely spend most of her time in a remote, isolated facility for her own safety. Stanton, on the other hand, received a sentence of 105 years in prison, and knowing he'd spend the rest of his life as someone's punching bag put a smile on my face. The rest of Stanton's team received similarly severe sentences. Donna's parents, Ralph and Denise, separated for a time after a disagreement at my house. Denise insisted she had never cheated on Ralph, but he found it difficult to believe her after everything that had transpired. They eventually reconciled and attended marriage counseling, though their relationship remained tense. As for me, I moved on. I sold the house and purchased an apartment near my workplace. I started going to the gym, got back in shape, and even dated a few women. However, I never felt a genuine connection with any of them. Trust was hard to regain after what Donna had done. I continued seeing Dr. Branson, who helped me work through many of my issues. But I knew I still had a long way to go. Unless you've experienced it yourself, it's tough to grasp the devastation of discovering that someone you loved and trusted had been betraying you for years. Still, things were improving. I had my job, my new apartment, and my freedom. Some women at work even began to notice the new me. I still had some areas to improve, but who knows? After all, tomorrow is another day. At the end of this deeply painful journey, I sit here reflecting on everything that has happened, everything that has been lost, and everything that I have learned. Trust, once broken, is almost impossible to repair. I entered my marriage with Donna believing in the sanctity of our commitment, the honesty between us, and the strength of our bond. Now, as I sit here in my new apartment, far removed from the life we once shared, I know that trust is fragile. It can be shattered in an instant, leaving behind nothing but shards that cut deep. When I think back to the man I was before all of this, I can hardly recognize him. Naive, hopeful, and perhaps a little too trusting. But that man is gone now. What remains is someone stronger, more cautious, and less willing to be vulnerable. Yes, I've been hardened by what Donna put me through. Her betrayals, her lies, and her deception. But I've also gained something valuable. Clarity. Clarity about who I am, what I deserve, and what I will no longer tolerate. Moving forward is not easy. In fact, it's one of the hardest things I've ever had to do. But in time, I've learned that healing isn't about forgetting or even forgiving. It's about accepting the truth of what has happened and allowing myself the grace to rebuild. I've come to terms with the fact that Donna never truly loved me, not in the way I loved her, and that's okay. I can live with that now. Looking ahead, I don't know if I'll ever love again the way I once did. I don't know if I'll ever fully trust another person, but I do know this. I will live for myself now. I will find joy in my own company, build new experiences, and maybe, just maybe, open my heart again one day. But for now, it's about reclaiming my life, my peace, and my sense of self. The road ahead is still uncertain, but I'm no longer afraid. I've faced the worst betrayal imaginable, and I've survived. If I can survive that, I can survive anything. Tomorrow is another day, and with it comes the possibility of new beginnings. Beginnings that are built on the truth, on self-respect, and on a future free from the shadows of the past. This is my story, not just of heartbreak, but of survival and renewal. I've closed the chapter on Donna, and now it's time to write the next chapter of my life. One where I am the author of my own happiness. And that, in the end, is the greatest victory of all.